Hello, I'm Torres. Today I'm going to tell you about some of the complexities of a song called Summer Soldier, which is one of about 130 sociological songs that contribute to my book entitled The Fifties Child, A Social History Through the Songs of Barclay James Harvest. This is one of two videos in which I tell you a little bit about the book. In the other video I describe the book in some general detail, but today I'm going to focus on Summer Soldier in particular. Summer Soldier was written in the early 1970s by John Lees, who is one of the three songwriters of the band. It is one of a group of 4 songs that takes its inspiration, either in whole or in part, from the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Now, the Troubles in Northern Ireland are generally regarded as having lasted from the late 1960s for 30 years until the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. Although it has to be said that Summer Soldier is just as relevant today as it was 40 years ago, sadly. We've only got to turn on our television news today and we will find reports that represent the continuing hatred between the communities of that island. Very sad indeed. Anyway, back to the early 1970s when Summer Soldier was written. Let's just remind ourselves of the situation in Ireland so we can then put the lyrics of Summer Soldier in context. The British Army was called in to Northern Ireland in the late 1960s to help support the local police force that had been overwhelmed in a spate of public riots. From that time onwards, for the 30 years of the Troubles, the violence was constant. Bombings, attacks, terrible, terrible carnage. Let me just give you an idea. Over the 30-year period of the Troubles, 750 British soldiers died in action. And that compares with about 200 soldiers who died in the Second Iraq War and about 400 soldiers who have died so far in our campaign in Afghanistan. More significantly perhaps, and the difference with those other conflicts of Iraq and Afghanistan, is the effect to which British civilians were affected by the conflict. Over the 30 years of the Troubles, about 2,000 civilians died. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. The Troubles were constantly on television news. Terrible images. In 1972, which is the year that Summer Soldier was published in the late autumn, there were some significant events that might have contributed to John Lees wanting to write the song. In February, a bomb planted at Aldershot Barracks killed 7 civilians. That attack had been made by the IRA as retaliation for the Parachute Brigade's involvement in the previous month's now infamous Bloody Sunday, during which 13 civilians died under British Army fire. Later in the same year, there was Bloody Friday. 22 bombs exploded in Belfast. 10 people died, including 2 children. The events really were shocking. The general impression of people in mainland Britain, by which I mean England, Wales and Scotland, was that the paramilitary groups were evil and must be stopped. So that's the general background, and you can now understand why Summer Soldier contains what must surely be one of the most remarkable lyric lines in British rock history. At the opening of the song, John Lees first lulls us into a warm feeling by expressing his compassion for the soldiers and their families who were involved in the violence. And he then unleashes the immortal line, "I feel sorry for the bomber who all life and limb dishonours." Eh? Did you hear that right? Lees has carried on singing. The record is still playing. The song is going on. What did he say? He said, "I feel sorry for the bomber who all life and limb dishonours." That is quite an extraordinary line. And Lees must have been one of the few people in England who could have felt sorry for an IRA bomber. Now, what my analysis in the book shows is how Lees can quite easily come to say such an extraordinary thing. Now, the fact of the matter is that Summer Soldier is similar thematically to a number of other of Lees's songs, which is quite helpful because we can then use what I call contextualization from those other songs to help us decipher the meaning of Summer Soldier in some detail. Summer Soldier is divided into 3 distinct lyrical sections, and it helps if I take them in reverse order. The third section is a metaphorical dream sequence in which 2 opposing characters appear. The first of these characters is the Summer Soldier, the chap who gives his name to the title of the song. Now, the Summer Soldier is a violent fellow. His ethos is war, he believes in violence, and he is going to use violence to solve all of his problems, or try to solve all of his problems. The other character appearing is his direct opposite. He's called the Angel Bright. His values are love and peace. That is his shield from life. And despite all of the harm that he feels from violent deeds, he is not going to shrink away from those values. Now, what we can understand from Summer Soldier and the other songs that we contextualize from is that these metaphors actually represent, in Lees's writing, they represent the difference between, or the ongoing battle in people's minds between absolute good and absolute evil. One can trivialize, as an example, one can trivialize it by saying, it affects all of us all of the time. For instance, do you give in to greed, or can you resist it? Are you able to resist lust, or do you just follow your sexual instincts? All of that sort of thing. I think a lot of people will recognize that within their own minds there's this kind of constant sort of battle between what is right, doing what is right, and also as opposed to doing what they want to do on the spur of the moment. Are they quick to anger, or do they think carefully before acting? Within my book, I describe these 2 opposing mental forces. I call them the duality of the psyche. It appears in a number of the other songs. It's relevant in Summer Soldier because within the second section of the song, Lees addresses the individuals involved in the violence directly. He says to them, wake up, as if to say, come on, get a grip. Shake yourselves out of this sorry situation. Look to see what lies all around you and begin to live a good life. The politicians may have all of these ideas about how to solve the situation, but actually the responsibility lies with you. In the second section of the song, Lees firmly places the responsibility with each and every individual involved in the conflict. However, back in the first section of the song, he had identified how difficult it is for anybody born into what is Lees's circle of hate to actually extricate themselves from the hate and the violence, given that he is going to come under peer pressure from family and friends to be part of the group. As Lees says, I feel sorry for children who must join the vicious circle of instinct fear bred from their parents' mind. This is Lees's circle of hate, and we can now complete our own circle of understanding. Lees feels compassion for all of those born into that maelstrom of conflict. Knowing for himself how difficult the battle for the mind can be, he understands that anybody born into that circle of hate is going to find it incredibly difficult to extricate themselves from that violence. Lees feels compassion for all of the individuals born into that maelstrom of conflict. As each child born into the circle of hate grows up, trying to fight his own internal battle of the mind, his conscience, his good conscience fighting against his summer soldier, he feels the pressure from all around, family, friends, peers, everywhere, telling him to hate the other side, hate the people that are different. And he is drawn to that violence. Very difficult to extricate themselves from it unless the individual has an uncommon spiritual strength. The summer soldier finds it all too easy to subdue the angel bright. Now Lees, knowing how difficult this internal battle of the mind can be, recognizes the difficulty of those people trying to extricate themselves from that situation. What he understands is, had he been born into that situation, then he too would have faced the same difficulties, and it might have been him who ended up being the bomber who causes death and destruction. Indeed, had you been born into that situation, you, my friend, could have been that bomber. Indeed, it could have been me. And because Lees understands that, that is why he can feel sorry for the bomber who wore life and limb dishonours. The roll of the cosmic dice holds your life's destiny. May your angel bright be sufficiently strong to subdue your summer soldier. The depth of writing in Summer Soldier is quite extraordinary. I mean, the song quickly leads us into Northern Ireland as part of our social history, but its spiritual elements and its elements of the duality of the psyche add a complexity that is uncommon. And also, the strength as a song comes from the fact that it has immediate power, because the way that it is written in general terms means that a listener can very quickly feel the depth and power of compassion within the song, even without understanding the detail that I've just spoken about. It affects people on a very primal level. It gives strength to their own feelings of inner worth, if you like. In other words, it empowers their own angel bright. One can understand this very easily by just looking around at concerts when Lees plays Summer Soldier. And by the way, he's still playing it now, 40 years after it was written. And you can look around and you can see how people are moved and touched by the song. It's a song with immense power. So that was Summer Soldier. There are many other such songs in Barclay James Harvest's songwriters' canon, and in their totality they describe a fascinating social history. I hope you're interested, and I hope you'll enjoy reading my book. Goodbye.